The soft jazz music drifted through the contemporary art gallery as Elena Rodriguez adjusted her emerald dress, feeling slightly out of place among the sophisticated crowd. At 22, she was still building her portfolio as a graphic designer, and events like this felt like stepping into another world. The invitation had come from her roommate's boyfriend, a networking opportunity, he'd called it. She was studying a bold, abstract painting when she felt someone's presence beside her. It's fascinating how the artist uses negative space to create tension, a smooth baritone voice observed. Much like how a beautiful woman can command a room simply by existing within it. Elena turned to find herself looking into the most captivating brown eyes she'd ever seen. The man standing beside her was tall and impeccably dressed, with dark hair perfectly styled and a smile that seemed to hold secrets. Everything about him exuded confidence and success. "I'm Adrian Blackwell," he said, extending his hand. "And you are absolutely stunning." Heat rose to Elena's cheeks. "Elena Rodriguez. And thank you. Though I think you're being a bit forward." Adrian's laugh was rich and warm. "Forgive me. I work in marketing. I'm used to recognizing exceptional quality when I see it. Would you allow me to buy you a drink and perhaps explain my theory about art and beauty?" As they moved toward the bar, Elena couldn't help but notice how people's eyes followed Adrian. He carried himself with the kind of magnetism that drew attention, and now, somehow, all that focus was on her. When he placed his hand gently on the small of her back to guide her through the crowd, she felt electricity shoot through her entire body. "So tell me, Elena Rodriguez," Adrian said, handing her a glass of champagne, "what brings someone as lovely as you to an evening like this? Please don't tell me you're here with someone." "Just networking," she replied, taking a sip to steady her nerves. "I'm a graphic designer, still building my career." A creative mind to match that incredible beauty, Adrian mused, his eyes never leaving her face. "You know, I've attended dozens of these events, and I've never seen anyone who could make a room feel brighter just by walking into it." Elena laughed nervously. "Do you always come on this strong?" "Only when I encounter something genuinely rare." His voice dropped lower, more intimate. "Elena, I hope this doesn't sound too presumptuous, but I feel like I've been waiting my entire life to meet someone like you." The sincerity in his voice made her breath catch. As the evening progressed, Adrian introduced her to influential gallery owners, successful entrepreneurs, and prominent socialites. With each introduction, he would place his hand on her waist or brush his fingers against hers, small gestures that made her pulse quicken. "This is Elena," he would say proudly. "She's going to be the most sought-after designer in the city. Look at that face. She could sell anything to anyone." When the gallery began to empty, Adrian walked her to the sidewalk. The city lights reflected in his eyes as he turned to face her. "I know this might seem fast," he said, stepping closer, "but I can't let you disappear into the night. Have dinner with me tomorrow. Let me show you how a woman like you deserves to be treated." Elena felt dizzy from his proximity, from the way he looked at her like she was the most precious thing he'd ever encountered. When he gently cupped her face and pressed a soft, lingering kiss to her lips, she melted completely. The kiss was perfect, gentle yet passionate, promising and yet restrained. "Yes," she whispered against his lips. "I'd love to have dinner with you." As her taxi pulled away, Elena watched Adrian standing under the streetlight, his hands in his pockets, that enigmatic smile still playing on his lips. She pressed her fingers to her mouth, still feeling the warmth of his kiss, completely unaware that she had just stepped into a beautifully crafted trap. 6 weeks into their whirlwind romance, Elena felt like she was living in a dream. Adrian showered her with expensive gifts, designer dresses, delicate jewelry, luxurious spa treatments. Every date was an adventure, Exclusive rooftop restaurants, private wine tastings, weekend getaways to boutique hotels where they'd spend hours wrapped in Egyptian cotton sheets, exploring each other's bodies with a passion that left Elena breathless. "You're like a goddess," Adrian would whisper against her neck as they lay tangled together after making love. "I want the whole world to see how perfect you are." And he certainly made sure they did. Elena found herself attending 3 or 4 high-profile events each week: charity galas, business dinners, networking parties where Adrian's colleagues gathered. At first, she was flattered by how proudly he displayed her on his arm. "Gentlemen, I'd like you to meet my Elena," he would announce to his business associates, his hand possessively on her waist. "Isn't she absolutely breathtaking?" Elena noticed how men's eyes would linger on her, how their wives would size her up with barely concealed envy. Adrian seemed to feed off this attention, his chest puffing with pride as if he'd won some sort of prize. But gradually, something began to feel off. At dinner parties, Adrian would steer conversations away whenever Elena tried to discuss her work or ideas. When she mentioned a challenging project she was excited about, he'd quickly interject with comments about her appearance instead. "Elena's being modest," he'd say with a charming laugh. "She's too beautiful to worry about work stress. Look at that smile. Could you imagine anything more perfect?" The turning point came at a crucial business dinner. Adrian was trying to secure a major client, Robert Hammond, a wealthy real estate developer known for his appreciation of beautiful women. Before they arrived, Adrian pulled Elena aside. "Darling, I need you to work your magic tonight," he said, adjusting her neckline to show more cleavage. "Hammond is old-fashioned. He responds well to feminine charm. Just be your gorgeous self, maybe laugh at his jokes, touch his arm when you talk. You know how irresistible you are." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "Adrian, are you asking me to flirt with him?" "Not flirt," he said quickly, though his eyes avoided hers. "Just be friendly. Use what God gave you." "You're my secret weapon, Elena. Men make better business decisions when they're distracted by beauty." During dinner, Elena watched in growing discomfort as Adrian practically offered her up as entertainment. He arranged the seating so she was next to Hammond, encouraged her to lean in close when the older man spoke, and kept refilling her wine glass. "Elena here is not just beautiful, she's brilliant too," Adrian said, though Elena noticed he never actually asked her to share any of her thoughts. "She has this way of making everything she touches more elegant." Hammond's hand found its way to Elena's knee under the table. When she stiffened and moved away, Adrian shot her a warning look. Later, in the bathroom, her friend Jessica cornered her. "Elena, what's going on? You look miserable. That's not like you." "I think Adrian wants me to sleep with his client," Elena whispered, the words sounding horrible, spoken aloud. "Oh, honey, no. Please tell me you're not considering it." "Of course not. But I love him, Jess. He says he needs me, that I'm helping his career." Jessica grabbed her shoulders. "Listen to yourself. A man who loves you doesn't pimp you out for business deals. You're worth so much more than being someone's pretty accessory." That night, as they made love in Adrian's penthouse apartment, Elena tried to lose herself in his touch, in the way he worshipped her body with his hands and mouth. But even as he brought her to shuddering climax, whispering how beautiful she was, how perfect, how lucky he was to have her, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was slowly disappearing, being reduced to nothing more than an object for his ambition. "I love you," she whispered into the darkness afterward. "You're perfect," he replied. But Elena noticed he didn't say the words back. The Meridian Hotel's crystal chandelier cast dancing lights across the crowded ballroom as Elena stood beside Adrian at his company's annual gala. She wore a stunning red dress he'd chosen, backless, curve-hugging, designed to turn heads. And it was working. She felt the familiar weight of male gazes following her every movement. "There's my golden boy," boomed Charles Whitmore, Adrian's boss, approaching with a silver-haired man Elena recognized as Viktor Kozlov, the Russian businessman Adrian had been pursuing for months. And the lovely Elena. My God, Blackwell, where do you find them? Adrian's grip on her waist tightened possessively. Elena, darling, this is Viktor Kozlov. Viktor, this is my Elena, the most beautiful woman in New York. Viktor's pale eyes traveled slowly down her body, making Elena's skin crawl. Adrian has excellent taste, he said in his thick accent, taking her hand and holding it longer than necessary. As the evening progressed, Elena watched Adrian work the room, using her like a chess piece. He'd position her strategically, encourage her to dance with important clients, laugh at their jokes, let them buy her drinks. She felt increasingly hollow with each performance. The breaking point came when Adrian pulled her aside near the hotel bar. Darling, I need you to do something important for me tonight, he said, his voice low and urgent. Viktor is interested in our proposal, but he needs some personal convincing. He's staying in the penthouse suite. I need you to go up there with him, make him comfortable, show him why working with our company would be pleasurable. Elena stared at him, her blood running cold. Are you asking me to prostitute myself for your business deal? Don't be dramatic, Adrian snapped, then forced his charming smile back in place. Just spend some time with him. Be your beautiful, charming self. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. But you want me to try, don't you? Elena's voice was barely a whisper. You want me to seduce him? Adrian's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. Elena, I've given you everything. The best restaurants, expensive gifts, a lifestyle you could never afford on your own. All I'm asking is that you help me the way a good girlfriend should. Something inside Elena snapped. 3 months of feeling like an object, like a beautiful decoration for Adrian's ambition, crystallized into pure fury. No, she said firmly. I won't do it. I'm not your employee or your prostitute. I'm supposed to be the woman you love. Adrian's face darkened. Love? Elena, look in the mirror. What exactly do you think I love about you? Your sparkling personality? Your brilliant career? You're a small-time designer who can barely pay her rent. The words hit her like physical blows, but Elena stood straighter. At least I have integrity. Integrity doesn't get you anywhere in this world, Adrian snarled. Beauty does, and you're too stupid to use yours properly. Their argument had drawn attention. Elena could see people turning to watch, phones discreetly recording. Adrian seemed to realize this too, and his voice grew louder, more performative. You know what, Elena? You're right. This isn't going to work. He laughed bitterly. I thought you were different, but you're just another pretty face with no substance, no ambition, no understanding of how the world actually works. Elena felt tears threatening, but she refused to let them fall in front of this crowd. You're right, Adrian. I am different. I have self-respect. Self-respect? Adrian's laugh was cruel. Sweetheart, look around. Every woman in this room would kill to be in your position, but you're too naive to appreciate what you have. Turned to address their audience. Ladies and gentlemen, let this be a lesson. Beauty without brains is just an empty package. The crowd murmured, some looking away in embarrassment, others pulling out phones to record the drama. Elena felt completely exposed, humiliated, but also strangely liberated. You're absolutely right, she said clearly, her voice carrying across the silent ballroom. I am beautiful. And I'm also smart enough to know my worth isn't determined by men like you. She walked away with her head held high, leaving Adrian standing alone in the spotlight he'd created. Behind her, she heard Viktor's accented voice. Perhaps we should discuss business another time, Adrian. You seem to have personal matters to resolve. Outside the hotel, Elena finally let the tears fall. Her phone buzzed with messages. Some from friends who'd seen the spectacle, others from strangers who'd already posted videos online. By morning, she knew, the entire city's social media would be buzzing about Adrian Blackwell's public breakup. But as she sat in the taxi heading home, Elena felt something she hadn't experienced in months. She felt like herself again. 3 years. Later, Elena Martinez stood in the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office on the 32nd floor of the Chrysler Building, watching the city pulse with life below. The nameplate on her door read, Elena Martinez, Creative Director at Morrison & Associates, one of Manhattan's most prestigious advertising agencies. The transformation hadn't been easy. After the humiliation at the Meridian Hotel, which had, indeed, become viral social media content, Elena had fallen into a dark period. The videos of Adrian's public degradation of her had been shared thousands of times, spawning cruel memes and commentary. She'd lost several potential clients who'd seen the footage and made assumptions about her character, but Jessica had refused to let her best friend drown in self-pity. "You're not defined by what that narcissist did to you," Jessica had said, physically dragging Elena out of her apartment after 2 weeks of hermit behavior. "You're talented, Elena. Don't let him steal that from you, too." The road back had required Elena to rebuild everything: her confidence, her career, her sense of self-worth. She'd started small, taking freelance projects, slowly rebuilding her reputation through excellent work rather than social connections. She'd also started therapy, learning to recognize the manipulation techniques Adrian had used and understanding why she'd been vulnerable to them. "You were love-bombed," her therapist, Dr. Williams, had explained. "Narcissists like Adrian use excessive charm and attention to create dependency, then gradually erode their partner's self-worth. Recognizing the pattern is the first step to healing from it." Elena had thrown herself into her work and personal growth with the same intensity she'd once devoted to being Adrian's perfect accessory. She'd taken night classes in business, learned about marketing strategy, and developed her own unique aesthetic that combined beauty with substance, something Adrian had convinced her was impossible. Her breakthrough came when she designed a campaign for a women's shelter that went viral for all the right reasons. The tagline, "Beauty with Purpose," became her personal motto and professional brand. Morrison & Associates had recruited her based on that campaign's success. Now, at 25, Elena had everything she'd once thought impossible: respect in her industry, financial independence, and most importantly, a circle of genuine friends who valued her mind as much as her appearance. Her assistant knocked on her door. "Elena? Your 2 p.m. is here. Marcus Chen from Chen Development Group." "Send him in," Elena smiled, smoothing her tailored blazer. Marcus was a successful architect who'd been pursuing her for months, not with Adrian's overwhelming intensity, but with genuine interest in her thoughts, her work, her dreams. Marcus entered with his warm smile and kind eyes, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "I brought your usual," he said, setting down a cup. "How's the Henderson campaign going?" "Brilliantly," Elena said, genuinely excited to share her work. "Want to see the concepts? I think you'll appreciate the architectural elements I incorporated." As they bent over her sketches together, Marcus's hand briefly touched hers. Unlike Adrian's calculated touches, this felt natural, respectful. When he looked at her, she saw genuine affection and respect, not possession or strategy. "You're incredible," Marcus said softly. "The way your mind works, how you see connections others miss. I feel so lucky to know you." Elena's heart fluttered, but this time with healthy excitement rather than desperate need for validation. She'd learned to trust her instincts, to value herself independently of any man's opinion. Meanwhile, across the city, Adrian Blackwell sat in his studio apartment in Queens, scrolling through social media on his cracked phone screen. The contrast was stark, from penthouse to studio, from tailored suits to thrift store clothing, from being mentioned in business magazines to being completely invisible. His downfall had been swift and thorough. After Elena's public rejection, other women had come forward with similar stories of manipulation and emotional abuse. A former intern had filed a harassment lawsuit that had cost him his job. Business contacts had distanced themselves as his reputation crumbled. His fair-weather friends had vanished the moment his usefulness ended. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd spent so much time using others that he'd never developed genuine relationships or real skills. Without his network and his company's resources, he was nobody. As Elena celebrated her latest campaign success with Marcus and her team, Adrian sat alone, finally understanding the difference between being valued for what you could provide versus being loved for who you were. The lesson had come too late. The autumn rain had just stopped when Elena pushed through the heavy glass doors of her favorite coffee shop in Soho, shaking droplets from her burgundy coat. At 25, she moved with a confidence that came from knowing exactly who she was and what she wanted. Her engagement ring, a simple but elegant solitaire from Marcus, caught the afternoon light as she approached the counter. "The usual, Ms. Martinez?" asked Jamie, the barista who knew her order by heart. "Please. And make it for here today. I'm meeting my fiancé in 20 minutes. Elena had just settled into a corner table with her laptop when she felt that familiar prickle of being watched. She looked up from her screen to see a figure in a worn jacket standing uncertainly near the entrance, and her breath caught in her throat. Adrian looked like a ghost of his former self. The expensive suits had been replaced by a faded button-down and jeans that had seen better days. His once perfectly styled hair was longer now, unkempt. But it was his eyes that struck her most. Where once there had been calculating confidence, now there was something hollow, desperate. For a moment, they simply stared at each other across the crowded cafe. Then Adrian began walking toward her, table, his movements hesitant, nothing like the commanding stride she remembered. "Elena," he said softly, stopping a few feet from her table. You look incredible." She did look incredible, and she knew it. But unlike 3 years ago, her confidence came from within rather than from male validation. Her success, her loving relationship with Marcus, her inner peace, all of it showed in the way she carried herself. "Hello, Adrian," she replied evenly, not inviting him to sit but not telling him to leave either. I've been following your career," he said, his voice lacking its former smoothness. "The Morrison campaign, the Henderson project, the feature in Marketing Today. You're exactly where you deserve to be." "Yes, I am," Elena said simply, offering no false modesty or explanation. Adrian shifted uncomfortably. "Elena, I need to tell you something. What I did to you, what I said that night, it was unforgivable. You were right about everything. I used you, and I'm sorry." Elena studied his face, seeing genuine regret there but feeling nothing like the vindication she'd once imagined. "Why are you telling me this now, Adrian?" "Because I lost everything," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "My job, my reputation, my friends. I'm working at a marketing firm in Queens now, junior level, barely making rent. And every day I think about how different things might have been if I'd actually loved you instead of using you." "You're mistaken about something," Elena said calmly. "You didn't lose everything because of what you did to me. You lost everything because of who you chose to be, a man who saw people as objects to be used. What happened to me was just one example of a pattern." Adrian's face crumpled slightly. "I know. Other women came forward after that night. Sarah from my old company, Jennifer from the art gallery where we met. I hurt a lot of people." "Yes, you did." "I've been in therapy," he said desperately. "I'm trying to change, to be better. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but—" "You're right," Elena interrupted gently. "You don't deserve my forgiveness. But I'm going to give it to you anyway, not because you've earned it, but because I deserve peace." Adrian's eyes filled with tears. "Elena, I know it's too late, but I need you to know I did love you. I just didn't know how to love someone without trying to own them." Elena felt a twist of sadness, not for what they'd lost, but for what had never really existed. "That wasn't love, Adrian. That was possession. Love is what I have now. Someone who celebrates my successes, who wants to hear my thoughts, who sees me as a whole person rather than a beautiful accessory." As if summoned by her words, Marcus appeared in the doorway, shaking rain from his umbrella. He spotted Elena immediately, his face lighting up with the kind of genuine joy that had taken her breath away the first time she'd seen it. When he noticed Adrian, his expression grew protective but not threatened. He was secure enough in their relationship to trust Elena completely. "Is everything okay?" Marcus asked, approaching their table with easy confidence. "Everything's fine," Elena said, standing to greet him with a soft kiss. "Adrian was just leaving." Adrian watched the gentle interaction between Elena and Marcus, the way Marcus's hand settled naturally on her lower back, the way Elena leaned into his touch without losing her own power, the way they looked at each other with mutual respect and genuine affection. "This is how it should be," Adrian whispered, more to himself than to them. Elena turned back to him one final time. "Adrian, I hope you find what you're looking for, but find it within yourself first. Don't look for another woman to complete you or boost your ego. Learn to be a whole person on your own." As they walked away together, Marcus took Elena's hand. "Was that him? The guy from the viral video?" "Yes," Elena said, surprised by how little power that word held now. "But he's not my story anymore. We are." Behind them, Adrian sat alone at Elena's abandoned table, watching through the window as the woman he'd lost walked away with a man who truly deserved her. For the first time in his life, he understood what he'd thrown away, and the weight of that knowledge would stay with him forever. Elena, meanwhile, walked into her future without looking back, finally free from the shadow of a man who had once made her question her own worth. The girl who had been dazzled by false charm had become a woman who recognized real love, and more importantly, had learned to love herself.